And historically, before Children's Advocacy Centers came along, the process of going through a sexual assault investigation or a child abuse investigation was much more unfriendly because of how often they were handled by each discipline, which was unnecessary, and the Children's Advocacy Center gives us a vehicle to streamline that and eliminate it, to get one solid forensic interview done, to collect the information that each discipline needs so that we can focus on the mission.
A Child Advocacy Center is more than a building. It's a team that works together in the best interests of abused children and their families. Each of the 40 centers across New York State puts the child's interests first to ensure the child is provided a safe and comfortable place to discuss abuse. In 2014, our centers helped over 18,500 children who were alleged victims of physical and/or sexual abuse. Our primary goal is to reduce the trauma associated with child sexual and physical abuse while holding offenders accountable for their victimization of children. We provide a safe, comfortable environment for children and families to come and to talk about their abuse and receive specialized medical evaluations and mental health treatment. Support throughout this process is imperative. At a Child Advocacy Center, from the moment they walk through our doors, each family is assigned a family advocate whose role it is to provide support and help navigate the system. The advocate is the consistent person that stays with the family through the entire process, from initial outcry through completion of services. Helping abused children and their families requires a coordinated and collaborative response through the use of multidisciplinary teams that address the physical, emotional, and legal aspects of abuse. Each team is comprised of trained professionals in 7 different disciplines, consisting of representatives from law enforcement, the district attorney's office, child protective services, family advocacy, medical and mental health providers, and the Child Advocacy Center staff, all working together in the best interests of the child to provide specialized services in one centralized location. Each discipline within the center works together to respond and create a plan to set children and families up for success. During the process, child abuse victims are provided with the opportunity to be heard and to heal so that they can go on to lead normal, fulfilling lives.
When a report is registered with the State Central Registry, the CPS worker has to engage with the family within a limited period of time, and so that CPS worker is usually the first contact the family has when a report is made. So within the Child Advocacy Center, the CPS worker is an active participant in that. They work together with the law enforcement officials to do the investigations, all the while keeping in mind the protection of the child, the safety of the child, and any other children in the family. That really is the essence of what CPS does. And then at the end, make a determination of abuse or neglect for the State Central Registry.
The family victim advocate in a Child Advocacy Center will typically provide the supportive role to the children and families when they come into the Advocacy Center. We are involved with the families from the very start of their case, and oftentimes to the end, and sometimes even beyond that. It depends on the direction that the actual case will take. So we just try and find out where that family is right there at that moment and try and tailor a program, if you will, for them that will help to support them throughout the process and beyond.
A forensic interviewer is a person who is trained in a special manner in order to be able to obtain information from a child who may have been a victim of abuse or a witness to some act of violence or abuse against another person. In a forensic interview, what we're trying to do is obtain factual information from the child and maybe some sensorial information. So information about if abuse happened, what it felt like, what it smelled like, what it tasted like, any of those kinds of things. Abuse doesn't happen with witnesses. Perpetrators don't often say they did it. So the statement that we get from the child, the forensic interview, is really the basic stone that the case is built on. So we want to make sure that we're asking those questions of a child in a non-leading way. We want to make sure that the questions that we're asking the child are developmentally appropriate for them so that they can answer those questions instead of getting a "I don't know" or "I don't remember." We want to make sure that they understand the question.
So as a mental health professional, my role is to provide individual treatment or family treatment to that client. The other thing that we do as a mental health professional is act to provide education to the other team members about mental health needs. My role might be to work with those team members to say, this client may have this reaction if that occurs. I mean, you really want someone who has specific training to be able to work with a client who has been through this type of trauma. At this point, there's a lot of evidence-based treatments that are used. So we want to look at trying to provide treatment that reduces the trauma that client might endure.
Through the Child Abuse Referral and Evaluation Program, which is a medical program, a comprehensive psychosocial history for the child and the family. We also do an emotional assessment of the child, as well as a medical history just to get some background detail on the child. Some of the other things that we do are a head-to-toe physical exam. The people on our medical team they have training in child abuse, so they have expertise in that field. Many CACs have child abuse pediatricians where you might not necessarily get that in the emergency department.
Sometimes when children are multiply interviewed, they can shut down, and so the information that you're getting is not valid. And in some situations, children were actually conjuring information after multiple interviews because they got to the point where they were trying to give the interviewee what they thought they wanted and entertain them. They deserve to be handled in a respectful, forensic approach one time. After all, let's face it, they're not the ones that did anything wrong.
Oftentimes, the testimony of the child is critical, and you're dealing with a young witness who, just by the nature of who they are, oftentimes, by the time the case gets to trial, can be, really tested on cross-examination. I was fortunate enough in Rochester during my time as district attorney to work with the Child Advocacy Center there, and I literally saw hundreds of cases where officers did take the children to the center for the first step. All the services were there. There would be one interview conducted in child-friendly interview rooms by interviewers who were trained to do the interviews right. And literally, there were hundreds of cases that we were able to successfully prosecute. And I think sometimes if you haven't worked with the model, your first instinct is, gee, this is just one more hurdle I have to jump through. It's one more thing that I have to deal with. Why can't I just go out and do my job? When the reality of the situation is, once you get used to dealing with the center, it is a fantastic tool that makes the police officer's job easier, it makes the prosecutor's job easier. And at the end of the day, police officers and prosecutors want to help people. They want to help people who've been victimized, certainly want to help children who've been victimized. And there is no better way for all of us in the law enforcement community to help these children who so desperately need our help than to involve child advocacy centers in the process. It makes for a better result. It makes for a much better way to treat the children who need our help. And frankly, at the end of the day, it's easier for law enforcement, it's easier for prosecutors.